to explain my fashion statement. I fell recently and broke vertebrae, so here I am. You can't wait till you don't have a health problem, I found. But thanks for coming. Okay. That's just a little intro about me. But let's see. We can move on. Yeah. So this is my great-grandfather, Carlo Digneo. I have that picture of my house. I don't know how I ended up. My uncle ended up with it, and then it's mine, but he probably lived here someday. So he was born in Isernia, Molise in 1854 and came here in the late 70s, and he died here in 1927. So, okay, I'm going to take you back to Italy for a minute. Terry, my husband there, we were able to go to my family's hometown 3 years ago, so it was such a treat. And this is where it is. It's about 2 hours southeast of Rome, and it's up in the mountains, a little tiny town called Isernia, and it's really sweet. They have a new town and an old town, but we stayed in the old town. Okay. This is just, you know, a long time ago over there. And then this is today. And they call that the clock tower. And that's the main road. And that actually, it looks like an administration building, but it's actually the cathedral there. And my great-grandparents were married there in 1877. So, and then this is very similar to the plate they have on the wall at the cathedral door. It's an homage to the stonemasons. This is just the interior of the cathedral. It was quite beautiful. You can go ahead, Nancy. This is the ceiling. Kind of looks like the Sistine Chapel. Okay, so here we are. So this is the Procchia that was built in the 1600s. And I don't know how much you know about that, but there it is, and it was destroyed in the Pueblo Revolt in 1680. So then Archbishop Lamy came here, and he arrived, as it says, in 1850. And he wanted a grand cathedral like the ones in Paris, well, in France especially, because that's where he was from. And so first he got the Americans, and that didn't go well, so he got rid of them. And then he got the French, and unfortunately for him, that didn't work. So he said, oh, the Italians. I know they'll do it. So that's what happened. And so my great-grandfather Carlo came to Baltimore, and he was building a Jesuit church there. And Lamy went there and he saw it, and he was very excited about it. And there's that story, and then there's the other one that he commissioned the Italians right from Isernia. And so, that was, let's see, that was 1869, and they laid the cornerstone, and then it was later stolen. But his brothers preceded him here, Gennaro and Michelangelo. And then the Brardinellis are in there too, you know, the funeral home, right? My cousin, yeah, I have an inn there. Nice place to have an inn, but anyway. So there were 4 families, these 2, and then the Palladinos, and then the Napoleonis. And since I'm on that, I'll tell you, if you go to the cathedral next time, when you go in, look to the left, and there will be a big card rack in front of Sons of Italy plaque, and it talks about the families. And installed in '05. It was right after my mother died, so she didn't get to see it. Okay. So here it is when they started building, and yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The donkeys and the dirt and everything. So they worked on it in the '70s, and then it took a long time to finish. Okay. Okay, so there we are. It was completed in 1885 on the left, and of course there it is now. One of the big stories or questions I always get is, why didn't they finish it, right, the spires? And two reasons. One was they ran out of money, okay, even happened then. And the other reason was because when the Americans built the foundation, they didn't do a very good job. And so it was rather weak, you know, and I just found this out recently in an article. And so the bottom line is that they were afraid to, if they could get the money, they were afraid to do the spires. They thought it would be just too much weight. And the spires, actually, we had seen a church in Chihuahua, Mexico, and he wanted to, you know, have it look just like that, but alas, it didn't. Okay. And there was also, when they started building, that was a cemetery there, like all over Santa Fe. You know, like even behind the Para building, that was a big cemetery before they laid all that concrete. So that was a little disturbing. Okay, so I'll show you a picture of the stone altar, the original one, but this article, Terry's done all my research, I just know the stories. This was in 1895 in the New Mexican, and it says, the cathedral authorities have let a contract to Digneo brothers for the erection of a handsome stone altar in the grand church edifice. So it says, Carlo, it should be Carlo, they always say Carlos, went to Cerrillos to collect the stone, and they figured it would cost about $700. And then it says right after that, they said that he started it, and then at the end, in the summer of 1895, they actually were paid $1,000. Okay. So, this is a very old picture. So, this is the stone altar that Carlo built, and it was just stunning. I remember it when I was little. And you can go ahead. And then what happened, which is really bad, this is in the 60s, and this is a picture right around the time that they got rid of the altar. And they said it was because of the liturgy changed, so instead of the priest facing the altar, he turned around to talk to the people. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but they got rid of the altar, and they put up, now, when you go in there, you'll see the saints and the little pictures up there. You know, my mother was so mad she never went in there again. And the whole family was, you know, they just couldn't believe it happened. But this says, the cathedral stands today 100 years after construction began. When this photograph was taken a few years ago, the stone altar carved from stone by Carlo Digneo with stone from Cerrillos, and the altar gave way. That's a nice way of putting it. It's in 64, you know, because of the changes in the liturgy. And this is on, you know, on the front doors of the cathedral, there are all these like bronze, I can't remember the name of the wonderful artist that did them all, but this is supposed to be honoring Carlo and the Bardinellis, because those are really the two families that worked on the cathedral. And this is the plaque that's behind all the greeting cards. When I go in there, I look over the gift shop and I say, you gotta put the cards over here, you know. And then when I leave, we put them back. But anyway, this is it. This was placed in, like I said, '05, and it's honoring the 4 families. And now there's no, oh, that one says sons and daughters of Italy. Yeah.
Well, it must be later.
That's interesting. Well, there isn't any organization anymore. There used to be, so.
Yeah. Do you know how big the work crews were involved in the construction?
How big what?
Do you know how big the work crews were? Were there hundreds of people crawling all over
Oh,
this,
that's a good question.
construction?
I don't know.
You know, the books from the Middle Ages describe these cathedral projects with huge numbers of workers.
Yeah, you do wonder. Would you know, Terry? I don't either. One would think, though.
Adrian?
Yeah.
Did you say the original altar was removed in the 1960s?
Yes. Sadly.
Where did it go?
Oh, they just destroyed it. And then, as you know, they have that baptismal font in there. Oh, that really made the family go off the deep end. My mother always used to say, it's not a Baptist church. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the Digneo houses. So across from the Capitol on Paseo, the one you probably know is that 3-story red brick that used to be Reside Home. And now the guys that owned it, they were great, but COVID just killed them, so it's up for sale again. And so this says, this was the first home. This was the Digneo Valdez house right next door to the 3-story brick. This says, first home built by Carlo in 1889 for his first family with Angela. They had 6 children here, the last being my grandfather, Charlie. When Charlie was 6 months old, Angela died. This house is on the historic register as the Digneo Valdez house. And because his niece, Melinda, I think she was Gennaro's daughter, married Felipe Valdez, and they lived there in later years. And those are old pictures. I don't see what that says, but anyway, you know, it has the address, first residence of Carlo Digneo, about being in the Italian community. Okay, go on. And there it is now. So, and whoever built, added on a long time ago, they built a big add-on in the back, but it used to be this little tiny house, and I used to go over there with my mother, and I'd see Melinda, and she never talked, she just had a big smile and sitting in this big chair. I think she was pretty old by then, but she was very sweet. So Carlo had these 6 kids, and then Angela died, as I had said, and so he was single for 11 years with these 6 kids, and he had one daughter, Jenny, and so she pretty much raised these little boys. And my mom always said when she grew up, she left for California and never had kids. And that was probably the reason. But so he was single for 11 years, and then he married Magdalena Delgado. You know the Delgado house, you know, just west of the plaza. That was her family. Oops. Do I need this? Can't bend over.
Here, can I get that?
Okay. Thank you. So, and that was in 1907, I believe, when he married Magdalena. And so he wanted to build a big, beautiful new house for her. So, that's Carlo and his wife Angela, and Joe was the only one that was born in Italy, and then he had, that was just taken when he had 3 children. Okay. And that's Carlo. I think he was kind of tired by then. And so they had 3 more children. So, we can go on. So there's the big house, as we call it. It is just a beautiful home. It has 5 bedrooms upstairs, and then the kitchen was in the basement, so poor Magdalena had to schlep everything up to the main floor. And it really is a stunning house. And so my mother told me that in the 30s, they had to sell the house because, you know, it was the Depression. Can anybody guess what they may have been paid for it?
5,000?
No, half that.
Oh my God.
$2,500. And I think now it's up for sale for, well, at least $3 million, I think. So anyway, poor Magdalena, so here, then she has 9 children in there because the boys didn't leave, they all just moved next door. So she was a very hardworking woman. Okay, good. Okay, that's my uncle, my mom's brother. This was an article, when was it? In '88. It was written by Ann Hillerman. And it was just about the whole house, the family, all the things that they had done. And Frank DeLucio lived in Albuquerque, and this is his quote: "It was a patron system as tight as that of the Spanish. People would help their friends come over, get them settled, find them jobs, keep them fed, and argue their cases in court." So he must have been making a point. Okay. All right. I have to go also. So this is in 1893, and it says, Carlo Digneo is hauling material for the erection of another neat brick cottage. So that ended up being my Uncle Americo's house. You go on. He bought a lot of lots around there because he wanted to keep all his kids close. Yeah.
So these houses are not Italian houses. Do you know who designed? They're arts and crafts houses. So
They're what?
They're arts and crafts houses. I mean, they're not Italian. So they came over here and they adopted designs that were current in America. Do you know? Is there any sort of down there?
Terry, you have a comment? Well, they are. They were all built by Carlo.
Right, but not to Italian designs. I mean, there's no Italian influence in them at all.
I know the craftsmanship is Italian.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
The quality.
Right. So, this is the 3rd Digneo home. And Americo married Maggie Bernelli. So all the families were very close. And so he built this house in 1916. You can go ahead. The smart board. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a few stories here. This is between Americo's house and my mother's childhood home on Weber, which is now the Fortichinas. And these were the kids in the neighborhood. And my mom is the tall one over there, not looking very happy because she was with all the boys. And so this was a gathering place, and a lot of people don't know about not only the Italians, but the Lebanese and the Greeks, and of course Spanish. So all these languages were being spoken, and this was in the 30s. But I remember, you know, in the 50s when I was growing up, it was still going on, you know, Lebanese. But the main language was Spanish. So my family was fluent, and I'm más o menos. But everybody came to see Aunt Maggie. She always had, she always had spaghetti sauce on the stove, and she'd feed anybody who came over anytime, no questions asked, and made her own spaghetti. She'd hang it out on the clothesline there. So it was quite the neighborhood. I'm gonna read to you, I wrote an essay years and years ago, I entitled it Santa Fe, Love the United Nations. So my mom and I would come in the summer because I was raised in Nebraska, as it says, because of my dad. And all the Corey families would pour out through, all across the street because they wanted to keep their kids close too. So there was Sitha and Sitha Corey at the end, the really nice house with the big veranda. And then they built 3 more homes and to keep some of their 6 kids there. And everybody would pour out. My mother's name was Dolly, so they'd all sing Hello Dolly. And it was really very sweet. It was, and I said, Aunt Maggie's red and white kind kitchen was always filled with aromas of spaghetti on the old gas stove, no matter what time of day. She was 4'10". She had long black hair and a bun with a white stripe running from her forehead. And she always wore black because she was always in mourning for, you know, whomever had died at the time. So I never saw her out of her long black dress. And you can go ahead. This is my mom's childhood home, and this is now the 4 Kachinas, bed and breakfast. And so this house was built in 1919, and my grandpa stuccoed it over. And he built it, Carlo built it for his daughter Jenny, but then she decided she didn't want to stay in Santa Fe, so he gave it to my grandfather and his wife Annie. And so it was a wonderful lot. It was a great big lot. There was a giant yard full of peach trees and a long thick row of dahlias that my grandpa carefully tended. There were large irregular chunks of sunset colored flagstone. And so the property was filled with pieces of flagstone, and my grandpa had a little garage, and it's now the breakfast room. And they built a big thing for all the people. But my mother's room in the back of the house, they titled that the Digneo room. So, and everybody would come over. The Berardinellis, Michael Berardinelli was a dentist here in those days. He'd come over for lunch at Maggie's. And then Pete Berardinelli would come with his big parrot on his shoulder. So I would just watch this, all these people just pouring in. And it was really a very special thing, because at the time I didn't know how special it was. And so all the languages all around, like I said, but really Spanish was the main one. When I ate spaghetti, I would always ask my Aunt Maggie for milk, and then she would get mad at me and kind of cuff me and say, "¿Por qué no mangiare con vino?" She wanted me to have wine. I'm like 10. And I go, and then she yells at my mother out the door in Spanish, "Está levantando con vacas." You raised this girl with cows. So there you are, you know. And I still drink milk with my spaghetti, but don't tell anybody. Okay, please. It's really embarrassing. I don't do it in public. Oh, if I'm out, I'll learn wine. Some things never die. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What brought your family over, brought them to Santa Fe?
Well, let me commission them to come and build a cathedral.
Oh.
Yeah.
They were brought over to build the
Oh, I guess I
cathedral.
missed that.
Or maybe I missed.
Yeah, so way back, you know, when the French failed, and then he got the Italians, and Carlo's brothers came here, and a couple of Berardinelli boys, and then Carlo came. So it all happened around the same time.
Oh.
Yeah, and they stayed, and most people don't know that there were Italians here. You can go ahead. That's my grandpa. Charlie. And he continued his father's stonemasonry in Santa Fe. And he built the beautiful little church on San Juan Pueblo, which is now OK Wingate. And he built the wall around Loretto, which wasn't torn down, the inn of Loretto. And there's just another little piece of info. You probably all know that beautiful Greer house on the corner of Don Gaspar and Paseo, the white with the big wrought iron circles. So Nathan Greer lived there, and he was from Lebanon, and he had 6 children, and he started the Lenzik, and Lenzik got its name from the first initial of all his kids. So L was for Lala, let's see, E was for Ethan, N was for Nathan Jr., S was for Sarah, who was my mom's friend, and I was for Ilya, and C was for the baby Charlie. So that's how that happened. And my mom's friends, there were 2 of them, Chubby Senna and Bambi Ellis. Of course, Ellis is one of the Pintures, and so they nicknamed her Bambi, I don't know why. And I got together with her several years ago. She was in her 90s, and she had all the Ellis paintings all over her little apartment. And Chubby Senna was part of the Senna family, you know, Senna Plaza, and that was, I remember going over there, so it was just a compound with all the Senna families living there. And my mother used to go play there when she was little. And so quite the history. 1928, this is my mom and her brother being photographed with I think it's a goat. A goat or a sheep, I'm not really sure. And my mother said this guy would go around with this cart and take pictures of all the little kids, and I'm so glad I have this. It's so precious. Go ahead. And there I am as a kid, and I'm there with my mom and my uncle and my grandparents in the yard. That was 1956. So yes, I'm really old. And during this time too, downtown, you know, the big stores were like Spitz Jewelers, the big Spitz clock on the corner of the plaza, that great big clock, that was from Spitz Jewelers. Then they had Kahn's shoe stores, Tykert shop, and all these, you know, all these shops that were there. Now the only original one there is the 5 and Dime. My uncle used to go around and tell tourists to buy their stuff there. They'd save a lot of money. And oh, one thing about the Lebanese is they came here as merchants, really. They ran liquor stores, tobacco, candy stores, grocery stores, you know, all from the East Coast. And even in my little town I grew up in Nebraska, there were a lot of Lebanese there. Same thing, restaurants, cigar stores. Okay.
Were there any Italian restaurants run by Italians?
No.
No?
Wow.
You go to people's homes.
No, and actually, that brings me the Greeks, of course, own Plaza Cafe, Tomasitas, yeah, Plaza Cafe Southside, and Tia Sophia's, and so that whole family, they were the restaurant people. Oh, and there's my grandpa with his kids in the yard in 1928, and probably the same day they had their picture taken. I still have my mother's concha belt she has on. That would fit around about 1/5 of my waist now. But it's really very sweet. You know, the leather is all worn, and they're these sweet little silver pieces. Okay, we're going to talk about some of the other structures. So this is Ventana Gallery, right, on Canyon. And so it was built in mid-1800s, and it was a dance rebuilt again, destroyed again, I don't know why. But Carlo got the job, and he was paid $5,311. Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, for the building. And as I said, it's on the corner of Canyon and Garcia. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. If anybody, that's okay. I don't need those, I've already talked about those. Okay. And there's, of course, the gallery today. And when Carlo built it, it was to be the first ward school in Santa Fe. Okay.
What's a ward school?
Yeah, what is a ward school?
Is it still there?
The building's still there.
The building, yeah.
But a ward school, is that a special kind of school?
Terry, do you know about that?
It's a political subdivision, isn't it?
What?
Isn't it a political subdivision, a ward?
Well, that
This is in the
that
first
could
ward,
That's the
be,
way.
yeah.
First.
There'd be a second ward, there'd be a third ward.
It's interesting, because I'm thinking of New Orleans with all the wards and
Maybe
even a
it's
designated
four wards.
area. This is in Albuquerque at UNM. This is Hodgkin Hall, and it was built by Carlo and Palladino. Palladino's in 1892, and it's still there. It's beautiful. And see up there on the top, built by Palladino and Carlo, Hodgkin Hall. I'm glad that hasn't been destroyed. Okay.
What was the source of their bricks? Were these bricks shipped in on the rails, or were they manufactured locally?
That's a good question. I gotta remember all these questions that I don't know the answer to. Do you know, honey?
I think it was local, I think they're all local bricks.
Local.
I know it was from the Indian school, they did some work there.
Okay.
The Indian school, the bricks were all made there.
So everything, yeah, was local, you know, in stone, I said before, it was from Cerritos. Okay, here we are at the Loretto Academy, which is no longer there, right next to the chapel. And Carlo worked on this building. My mom and my grandma went to school there, and my grandma and grandpa met there. She was in high school and he was doing some stonework. And unfortunately, of course, it's gone. And you can go ahead.
Loretto Chapel on that side?
Yes. Mhm. And then it's a better picture. The next picture is, so there's the chapel. This was a while ago. And,
So were the Italians involved in building the chapel?
no, not the chapel, no. That story is I don't know who built the chapel, but, the staircase, you know, that's the big draw, is that it has no nails and the nuns always said that Jesus came and built it. And it is a mystery, but that's a whole nother thing. No, they did the school there, and then right next to it is the convent for the nuns where they lived. And of course, that's gone too. And all that area, you know, you see people selling stuff now there. Okay. We're switching to La Fonda now. That's the fireplace opposite the French pastry shop. And my grandpa built that in the 30s. And never been able to find documentation, so it's not plaque, but I think I'm gonna do something one of these days in the middle of the night. But, my mom would walk down after school and watch, him build it. Also the La Fonda used to be the Exchange Hotel. And, I do have a, there are some pictures over there if you'd like to see them after. He did a big remodel in the Exchange Hotel. before it became La Fonda. Okay. This is the fireplace in my home. It's the last Digneo house. It was built by my grandfather and my great uncle and my uncle. And my uncle wanted it to look like the one in La Fonda. So it pretty much does. That was in the 30s. That's my grandfather laying flagstone in my backyard in 54. Okay, this is the sweet little church at the San Juan Pueblo. This was an article by Edward Crocker. He did a whole thing on this. So Carlo and his two sons, Fred and Charlie, daily rode the Chile line, the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad to Chamita, the San Juan stop, and walked to the work site. There they cut, dressed, and laid the soft volcanic tuff that was quarried up the canyon and delivered in rough blocks by wagon. And yeah, my grandfather was only 16 years old, and they built that in 1911. And right across the little dirt road, if you go there, is another very nice little chapel built by the French. If you can go in that's really nice.
Did the vote commission them to make these?
That probably was what happened. Yeah. And it's really nice. It's in great shape and it's been maintained, and it's an active little church. Okay, this is a building you've never seen. This was the Palace Hotel, and it was on the corner of Lincoln and Marcy. And Carlo remodeled it, probably with his brothers. And then I don't know when it was destroyed, but it's very sad because it's a stunning structure.
Can I ask which corner is it? The City Hall is?
Corner of, what is it? Yeah, Lincoln and Marcy. So that's,
Oh, that would be.
what's there now? What's that?
Boca, Cafe. Boca, and that whole building with the local glasses on.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
think it's on, so it's the same block as where we are?
Yes,
So you're saying some of these,
that's what.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh,
That's
what a
right.
alignment house.
It's just massive. It's so sad. It was beautiful.
So it was just destroyed and.
Yes, I don't know why. Do you know, honey? No, we don't know. And that picture was taken in 1894.
Oh, that's.
Do you know when it was destroyed, what year?
I don't.
Because there was a time that I read that people wanted to, I don't know, remake Santa Fe into that Pueblo Spanish Santa Fe style, and then a lot of buildings got destroyed because of that.
That's very possible.
So I'm wondering if
I'm
it has
gonna
something
see
to
if I
do
can
with,
find the answer to that.
you know, around the 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm. Everything changed. Or starting to change. You know, the Depression and whatnot.
Right, and then add the depression to it, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is here, the Cathedral building. We all know that on the plaza. So, Catrins came here from Texas in 1860, and he wanted, the big lawyer family, they wanted this beautiful building. So again, in 1891, Carlo and Brardinelli families and the Palladino brothers, all three of them built that. And my mother worked there. She was a secretary up in right up there in the top. She'd come down from Weber in her high heels. She was a real tiny little lady. And go up there, and there she was working in her grandfather's building. She left Loretto in 11th grade because she knew she wouldn't go to college and she needed a secretarial skill, so she went to Santa Fe High. Okay. This is the Digneo plot at Rosario. If you go in, right back toward the chapel, this is the last plot on the right, and Carla ordered this tombstone from Italy. It's not all stone. You can rap on it and it echoes. But, so in front it says C. Digneo, and then both wives are buried there, one on either side. My grandparents are there, you know, all the elder people at the time who died in the 70s and 80s. Okay. Well, that's my mom and dad when they got married in 46. And then Terry and I, we didn't get married there, but we had our picture taken in the same place. Something else is that he also worked on the dam, the reservoir, up by Cristo Rey. And worked on the Indian school, you know, we know all that. But he did give some land to the Indian school. I'm just gonna end with a funny little story. This was in the New Mexican, September 17th, 1912. It says, stops runaway horse. Policeman Garcia and Baca stopped a runaway horse which dragged a buggy at top-notch speed from the Montezuma Hotel down San Francisco, a block or two, causing much excitement. The animal was quieted and turned over to the marshal, who found the owner to be Carla Digneo. Damage was slight. So he had an interesting side too. I think he went and lived in Denver for a while, and he operated a bar there, and so none of that worked out, so he came back to stonemasonry. But he must have been a very interesting man. I think that's it.
So,
Any other questions? You've asked a lot of really good questions. Thank you very much. So, make a list of those questions.
so these projects that you show are big. I mean, they obviously put together a significant construction company. I mean, two brothers don't build whole churches and whole hotels. Well, what happened?
I guess I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm saying that the size of the projects that you were showing, your relatives involved in, were bigger than just two stonemasons. I mean,
Yeah, of course they had help.
It was a big construction company, which was obviously running for many years. What happened to the construction company?
I don't know how to answer that. Big crew. Okay. Yeah.
I just checked the Palace Hotel, which was on Lincoln, was burned to the ground mysteriously.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry, you have it right. Yes, there was a fire there.
Wow.
Right. Thanks for the reminder.
So are there any architects, builders in your family now? Or?
No.
No.
No, my cousin Bernadette has been an OR nurse at the hospital for decades, and I became a nurse and an NP, so. And then Rick owned, he did own the funeral home, but, no. Yeah, it's a lost art, I think.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Your history is made up of peoples and families and stories, and so, you know, I now as I drive around town and I go by different buildings, I'll think about your family.
Oh,
all
thank
those
you.
stories you shared with us.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, people go down Paseo, but they don't know all the history there, and
Yeah.
it's really something with all the different ethnicities and.
So he designed the house with a beautiful flat out going on?
No,